Majo John Madden, out in the front yard of my tiny house in Akumal. I have a crew of 3 workers. My landlord Marcos, his helper Carlos, and their bricklayer Francisco. And they've been working around here all night, and they speak Mayan. They all speak fluent Spanish. Marcos also speaks fluent English, but they all speak their native Mayan, indigenous language. And it's reminding me of before I ever crossed into Mexico illegally, the official time, the final time at Progreso, Texas, Nuevo Progreso, Mexico. I crossed into Mexico illegally twice outside of Brownsville on the Gulf of Mexico, where the Rio Grande River dumps into the Gulf of Mexico. And there's a beach down there that Brownsville people took a lot of pride in because it was their private beach. It was all Texas still, but all the tourists preferred to go to South Padre Island, which is spectacular. This was absolutely unimproved, no facilities whatsoever, just virgin. And when you hit the Gulf of Mexico there, if you go left, it takes you right up across the channel, the Brownsville shipping channel from South Padre Island. But if you make a right, which almost nobody does, it takes you right down to the Rio Grande Valley in the Mexico border. And that was like catnip for me. I had to get there. And some very wise person in the Brownsville tourist site had written that spot where the Rio Grande empties into the Gulf of Mexico was symbolic of the blending of cultures in Brownsville itself, which is 90% Latino. I love that spot. On the way driving there, I asked a young woman, if I get down there, am I going to be able to get out? And she said, tomorrow at low tide, you can. I said, that sounds great. So I spent a bunch of nights down there. And the sweet sounds of the Mexicans partying on Baghdad Beach on the Tamaulipas, Mexico side was my first exposure to how happy Mexican people are. And I loved it, and I longed to be part of it. Enough so that I twice swam across the Rio Grande River to join them. And the one time I went up to a bunch of men talking together and said, necesito un pasaporte? Do I need a passport? And they enjoyed that. Well, I'm revisiting all that tonight because now it feels like my front yard is the spot where the Spanish Mexican culture blends with the Mayan culture. Because I was telling Marcos, you're different from the indigenous people. All the other places I've been in Mexico, they stick by themselves. They stay up in their mountain villages and bring coffee in to sell it, but they're not integrated into society. Marcos and his sister Mirna are completely integrated. He runs a construction firm and he's also a fisherman. And Mirna runs a coffee shop that serves a lot of tourists, a lot of expats. So neither of them looks to be leading an indigenous life anymore, but they are, and they're very proud in it. And Marcos was confiding tonight that he grieves about that the young people aren't interested in the old ways. They don't want to learn the Mayan language. They're interested in hip hop and pop culture and their phones. Well, it was always that way, right? What was the Broadway musical, Bye Bye Birdie or something, where Phil Lynde sings, kids, you can talk and talk till your face turns blue. Kids, but they still do just what they want to do. Why can't they be like we were, perfect in every way? What's the matter with kids today? So it's always that. Always the older generation grieves that the young people move on and they don't want to, they just don't value what we have to offer. Always that way. But I get it. I am old. I'm older than any of these guys. And I go, oh, am I lucky? Am I lucky to hang out with you and to listen to you talk Mayan? Uh, it's never going to be Mayan. I'm sorry for the pun. It's never going to be Mayan. I'll be lucky to learn Spanish, but there's something haunting about your indigenous language and haunting being around you because you are carriers of the indigenous culture. Even if you don't realize it, I recognize it. There's something real different about you guys. No, you're grounded and peaceful and solid in a way that I've never experienced before. And I just want to rub shoulders with it as much as I can.